I do want to bring him in because I know he's probably got 101 things to do today, and he's come in between other things, and he will probably need to drop off after he's spoken. So I want to just bring in Mohammed Shafiq, who I'm really proud to say we in Stand Up to Racism here in the Northwest will work really closely with Mohammed Shafiq. He's works for he's part of the PCS union, which have been absolutely key to the work that we've done. He's also part of an organization called the Ramadan Foundation. But I do want to say, it's important that he's here because he represents the link that we have with the union movement, the trade union movement, which is absolutely where I would say the strength of our movement comes from. So, Mohammed, over to yourself.
Thank you so much, Naila. Thank you so much for the invitation, and greetings and solidarity to Stand Up to Racism, to Afzal Khan. I can see Heather Fletcher here as well. It's great to be here. And can I first of all pay my tribute to you, Naila, and to Paul Jenkins and all your team for the fantastic work you've been doing over these past few years. Not only are you speaking out against racism, you're on the front line working as an activist, and I think that's really important in making a lasting difference to take on the fascist far right, whether that be physically, when we see the likes of Tommy Robinson defeated across this region, or whether we see it across the streets that we live in, making sure that there's a strong voice against racism and xenophobia. And I think it's really important also that we acknowledge the good work of my good friend Afzal Khan. There's never been an issue where he's not stood up and joined that campaign, even though now he's very busy being a member of parliament for Manchester Gorton. He's still been very forthright and always willing to stand up and be counted. Islamophobia is no different than anti-Semitism. It's no different from racism, and it's going to be called out for what it has. And we've seen a movement happen over these past few years, at least in the last 2 years. And I think it's down to the likes of Naila, it's down to the likes of Stand Up to Racism, who made a real difference in challenging the language that is being used, the demonization of Muslims in everyday life, not just in our politics, but our TV, our radio, our newspapers, and across social media, that the language that is used against Muslims is unacceptable and needs to be called out for what it is. And we're seeing significant successes, if you like, in how we do that. My real concern is when we look across the pond to France, where President Macron has adopted the language of the far right. He has labeled Muslims as a third-class people who want to isolate, who want to live in their own ghettos, not understanding that those ghettos were created by successive governments, and really mainstreaming the language of the far right, Marine Le Pen and Front National, as well as they might change their viewpoint and they might change their name. Their philosophy and ideology is one of division and hatred. And what has been really disgusting is we have a president, Elysee Palace, who thinks that the language of the far right can be used to demonize people. Islamophobia is real. And let me say this very clearly through your platform, that we do not say that Islam is immune from criticism. Islam is immune from being challenged or questioned, but surely that should be done with an element of respect and decency on an intellectual basis. And many of us in the Muslim community have been doing that through the media, but certainly through our workplaces and our community. And I think it's really important that we all understand that this is not just our fight, it's everybody's fight. And we've got to stand together, whether that is during Black Lives Matter and the issues that Black community are facing, whether it's the Jewish community and the anti-Semitism that it faces, or it's the Muslim community. And in recent days, we've seen the despicable attack against a young Sikh school boy in Telford. An attack against one faith is an attack against us all. So I suppose what we've also got to understand is we've got to regroup. And people have used this pandemic as a way to demonize our community. So as a proud Muslim, as a proud member of the British society, I think it was overwhelmingly so proud They're on the front line of the NHS during the first phase of the pandemic in April. It was Muslims. It was Muslims. The first 5 health staff who sadly died from this virus were from the Muslim community. And we were at the forefront of taking on the battle to defeat this virus. And we saw that the language suddenly changed. I didn't take time in calling out the language of people like Andrew Pearce from the Daily Mail and others for their rampant Islamophobia, because they thought just because Muslims wanted to celebrate their Eid with their families, that somehow we could be targeted as if we were spreading the virus, and that north-south divide, pitting one community against another, perpetuated by some elements of this government. So I suppose in conclusion, I salute everybody who's on the front line of fighting racism and xenophobia. You can't fight Islamophobia if you're perpetuating anti-Semitism. You can't fight anti-Semitism if you're involved in Islamophobia. And anti-Black racism is a scourge on our society. So I suppose the plea from me is that we all continue to stand united under the banner of Naila, under your leadership and your work of Paul Jenkins and the Stand Up to Racism. So solidarity, colleagues and friends, thank you so much for all that you're doing. We don't often get the chance to come together and celebrate our successes. So I salute all of you. I wish you well, and I hope to see you very, very soon once we get through this pandemic. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Mohammed Shafiq, for your warm words and your message of unity.